Residents of Tuscaloosa has depended on this butcher shop and grocery store. I'm talking about South's Finest Meats. With their specialty meats and fresh to frozen bulk vegetables, you can prepare delicious home-cooked meals all week long. At South's Finest Meats, customer service is their number one priority, and when you shop with them, you can expect to be treated like an MVP. Go by and check out South's Finest Meats at 3201 10th Avenue right there in Tuscaloosa. South's Finest Meats, the official sponsor of the Stingray Show. And just when you thought college football could not get any more crazier, the GOAT, Nick Saban, from the University of Alabama, decides to hang it up coaching after 28 years on the sidelines. We will get in there and discuss all of that. Plus, we will be joined by the one and only Tim Brando. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Stingray Show. Let's get things rocking and rolling.
Hi, this is Tim Brando with a reminder. Those of you on Tide 100.9, look out. You're about to feel the buzz of Stingray.
This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
I'm Heath Hopkins. I'm here in DeSoto County, Mississippi, right outside of Memphis, Tennessee. You know, Mark, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you feel that responsibility to pay it forward and give some kid a chance coming up in the ranks kind of like Tony did for you?
Why do you think I'm talking to Stingray tonight?
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
No, I mean, look, no.
Hey, Stingray, here's the deal. When you get involved with Texas, it's like getting married to a stripper. and let me explain this. It looks good, kind of sexy on the surface. Yeah, but then you get the baggage, you get the drama, you get all that eventually comes with it. And that's what you get with Texas, and that's what the Big 12 learned.
And Heath, any thoughts on our show moving forward?
Hey, to everyone in Tuscaloosa listening here on Tide 100.9. With the Stingray Show, if you don't like it, you better learn to love it, because it's the best show going today, baby. Woo!
And ladies and gentlemen, with all of that, we want to welcome you inside another edition of the Stingray Show. Hope all is well. And Heath, I have to ask you, my friend, who is the happiest man in college football right now?
I know who the happiest man is out of college football. Wow. The next head coach at Alabama is probably the happiest man in college football. Steven, you got to think that Alabama is going to act swiftly and quickly. You have to now due to the transfer portal. The entire Bama roster's got 30 days to get in the transfer portal. You know, we saw this when Mike Leach passed away last year, that Mississippi State had to make a super quick hire because vultures were just coming in. SEC schools were just coming in and picking the roster apart. Hey, who doesn't want Alabama's roster? Everybody wants Alabama's roster. Yeah. And the vultures are coming. If you think that calls haven't been made, you're kidding yourself. When news broke, I guarantee you every person on the roster within a half hour already had offers at other schools.
Yes. Heath, let me rephrase that. Who is the happiest man in America right now? Ladies and gentlemen, I hate to say it, but Coach Nick Saban. And here is why, my friend, because he no longer has to worry, Heath, about who am I going to piss off today that may jump in the transfer portal tomorrow, the next day, 6 weeks from now, a month from now. I mean, dude, honestly, the transfer portal was one of the things that I think pushed Nick Saban to retirement, because it was the one thing in college athletics that Coach Saban nor any of these coaches have any single control over, and now he doesn't have to worry about it anymore.
No, he didn't have to worry about it. He didn't have to worry about NIL deals.
Nope.
He didn't have to worry about recruiting. He didn't have to worry about losing coaches to other staffs. He doesn't have to worry about anything, Stephen. You know, he is done with it. Hey, if I'm Coach Saban, I might not even give a press conference.
Right.
Like, hey, I'm done. Whatever you want to write up, feel free to do it. I'm done. I'm retired. There's nothing for me to say.
And look, dude, let's be honest. The transfer portal and the NIL just completely took whatever passion that he had for college football completely out of him. And for the last 3 or 4 years, you could really see after every single season, it just kept pushing him closer and closer to retirement because of how crazy it has gotten in college football.
Well, another thing, Stephen, you don't see coaches coach into their 60s. It is super rare.
Right.
Super rare to see a coach into his 60s, a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And here's Saban at 72.
Yeah.
12 years past that, a decade plus. And so, old coaches don't stick around. Coaching is not for old folks.
No.
It never has been. And let me tell you, with the transfer portal and the NIL, it's really not for older people.
It's a young man's game now, my friend.
It's always been a young man's game. Jackie Sherrill talked about that back in the 90s. How coaching is a young man's game.
Yeah.
To see guys like Joe Paterno, Bobby Bowden, Nick Saban, there's the reason why we call them the greats of all time.
Right.
There's a reason. Because you don't see coaches coach at an old age.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen.
All right. So Heath, moving from Nick Saban to the guy who is going to succeed him at the University of Alabama, give me a couple of names that you think should be on the top of the list for one Greg Byrne.
Wow, last time Greg Byrne hired a coach, he hired Dan Mullen at Mississippi State.
Yes.
That's the last time he's hired a football coach. I take that back. He hired Rich Rod at Arizona.
Yep.
So there you go. It's not going to be Rich Rod. It's not going to be Dan Mullen. I'll go on and roll out Dabo. Dabo's not getting this job.
No.
I think there's 3 people that you have to watch. I don't think there's going to be a huge long list. I think there's 3 people. I think Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. I think Sark at Texas.
Yeah.
And I think Lanning at Oregon. It's one of those 3, and I don't think there's anybody else. We had Tom Luganbill on here back in the summer. I asked Tom that question, and he said, you might want to think about Mario Cristobal. I don't think Mario's in the conversation. Right. It's funny how this all came about, but Stephen, I'm going to be shocked if it's one of those 3, if it's not one of those 3.
Right.
So the Lane Train, Sark, or Dan the Man out there in Oregon. It's one of those 3.
Okay. Now, call me crazy and laugh at me if you want to, but what about the main man right now in San Francisco? What about looking hard at DeMeco Ryans, the former Alabama player who is now a head coach in the NFL for the San Francisco 49ers?
Do you want to come back and deal with the transfer portal and NIL deals? But do you want to deal with that? Because in the NFL, there's no recruiting. There's no NIL. There's no transfer portal.
But he gets to come home to his alma mater because he played here.
I'm not doing it. Okay. I'm not. The NFL is a better gig. And who wants to follow Nick Saban?
Yeah, I know.
We saw this with Bear Bryant, and I think we're going to see it again. Bama fans, you expecting a national title every year or every other year or every few years, you might want to back that down.
Right.
I mean, do you remember it went from Bear through all those coaches to Gene Stallings did it one time.
Yep.
And then we went a whole bunch of coaches after that until we got Nick Saban. There's not another Nick Saban out there.
No.
There's not one. There's just not. So, you can't replace him. You can't replace Bear Bryant. You got lucky. You usually get a once-in-a-generation coach like Bear Bryant. Bama got it twice.
Yeah.
With Bear and Coach Saban. But this is over, man. I mean, this is over. I'm not saying the dynasty's over. I'm not saying Alabama's not going to be good, but you might want to get your heart set on 9, 10, 11 win seasons. You might want to get your heart set on that. 15-0, I wouldn't get my heart set on that. 2 or 3 losses a year, it's coming.
So, Heath, on that note, we're going to take our first break, and when we come back, we are going to be joined by Tim Brando, a.k.a. Timmy B, will join us on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show. We will be right back.
Timmy B.
Now, this hour's West Alabama real-time news update from the Tuscaloosa Thread Newsroom.
Tuscaloosa Mayor Walt Maddox said the city can and must continue to grow and thrive even after the Wednesday retirement of Alabama football coach Nick Saban. In related news, Habitat for Humanity has confirmed Nick and Miss Terry will sponsor the construction of another home for a family in need to celebrate December's SEC championship. There's a slight risk of severe weather Friday, and a new drive-through Starbucks is coming soon to 15th Street. For the details on these stories and more, get connected at TuscaloosaThread.com.
Get 24/7 local news coverage and sports updates when you download the free Tuscaloosa Thread app and sign up for twice daily email newsletters.
Citizens of West Alabama, have you heard the news? The Bank of Moundville, which was established way back in 1907, offers personal loans of all sizes, unsecured and secured, with competitive interest rates. You can contact them today at 205-371-2227. Once again, that is the Bank of Moundville, 205-371-2227, or go by and see them in downtown Moundville. They are an equal housing lender and a member of the FDIC. Do you guys have a lake or pond that you own but you don't know your fish population? Then you need to contact Honey Hole Fisheries right here in Tuscaloosa County, because they offer fish population analysis to give you a detailed look at how many fish you have in your pond or lake. They can also help you build the pond or lake of your dreams. Contact Honey Hole Fisheries and Jeff Bagwell at 205-799-0192 and let Honey Hole Fisheries design or create the lake of your dreams. Do you guys dream about owning a home or a condominium down on the beautiful beaches of Alabama, say Orange Beach, Gulf Shores, or maybe even Fairhope? Then let me tell you about First Class Real Estate South Home Group's owner, Celeste Hagler. She has brokers down there in the beautiful beaches of Alabama to help you purchase the home of your dreams and to live where you love in the state of Alabama. You can contact Celeste Hagler at 205-861-5698. Contact Celeste Hagler today to help you live where you love in the state of Alabama. Welcome back inside the Stingray Show. Hope all is well with you guys. And now we are about to get to a very special guest who we've had join us on the show multiple times. Heath likes to say he is a dear friend of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please help us welcome back to the Stingray Show, Mr. Timmy B, Tim Brando, who is now transitioning from college football into broadcasting college basketball games on the Fox network. Timmy B, how do you do, sir?
I do just fine, Stingray. Good to be with both you and Heath. It's great to be back on the Stingray Show. Hope you guys had a marvelous Christmas holiday and New Year's, and yeah, you could say I've transitioned all right. It's as they say, onward and upward. And if the helmet heads don't want to latch on, you're going to miss out. I'm just going to tell you. I've been telling SEC fans that for years. You helmet heads, you better start keeping up with college basketball, because it's awesome, and it only gets better as we get closer to March. The march towards March is underway.
Yes, sir. So, Tim, I do want to get your take on the national championship from Monday night, Michigan versus Washington. Give us your thoughts on Michigan finally winning it all under Jim Harbaugh.
I got to say, I think I was with you guys back in August. It's always fun for me to remind people that that's the team I picked in August to win the national championship on the preseason top tens that I do. I don't often get it right, but I did there. But I always, as you like to say, stir the pot and make it interesting. So when the playoffs began, I did choose Washington to win it all. I thought that Washington was playing better than anybody, and they had a quarterback that was, a generational guy that was playing at the highest level. And, were it not for some competitive games with Bo Nix, in which neither he nor Nix really won the day, it was kind of a wash. Both of them had similar numbers, very competitive games. I think that's what enabled Jaden Daniels to win the Heisman Trophy. He could win it with his stats in games that mattered less because he didn't have to worry about staying undefeated and trying to win a national championship. Both Bo Nix and Penix were playing in games trying to win a title, and that's different. You can't amass those kinds of numbers. But all credit to Daniels and to LSU for allowing Daniels the opportunity to do that, which he did. But Penix, pound for pound, in the most meaningful games, was the best quarterback in the country this year.
Yeah.
And he pitched almost a perfect game against Texas. And somehow, some way, because of a bad rule that needs to be changed, maybe some shoddy play calling with a 2-touchdown lead, and bad clock management, Texas did have a shot at the end zone to tie or win that game, and they shouldn't have. They were soundly beaten, I felt, in that game. But I really thought that Michigan had a very difficult transition to make, to go from playing against a team like Alabama that was going to play inside the hash marks and allow you to be in a phone booth. You really don't have to cover the entire field when you're playing Alabama, particularly that day you didn't. I really thought they'd have a struggle trying to defend the width and the breadth of the field because of the pressure that those three wide receivers will put on you.
Right.
But, I mean, bottom line is we once again found out that whether you're playing in the SEC or the Big Ten, okay, he who has the best line of scrimmage is generally going to disrupt any team, no matter how talented they may be or how great an elite quarterback you might have. Michael Penix had a poor game, but it wasn't just because he was on an off night. It was because Michigan forced him to have a bad game. They put pressure on him that Texas did not put on, and I don't mean just with pass rush and getting him nicked up, which he was bruised, battered, and beaten by the end of the game. You could tell, but he was also confused by pass coverages, confused by some of the different looks he was getting from Jess Minter's defense, the defensive coordinator for Michigan. They just did a great job. And as a result, that, and I think maybe the size of the stage. And when you do, I think a lot of people feel like, well, what's the difference in playing in the Superdome versus NRG? Well, maybe not a lot, but the stakes were higher. And so each time you get to that next level, there's a new kind of pressure being put on you. And I think his self-imposed pressure to be perfect probably got in the way a little bit. And he missed some throws he'd normally always make. And his receivers missed some passes they would always make. And a combination of the mistakes that Michigan made didn't hurt them because of just flat-out misses on the part of either Penix or the receivers. And then a couple of calls that didn't go their way when they did make a play. Okay, that last holding call when Odunze made that catch, in effect, ended that game. Yeah. Because they punted and then J.J. McCarthy made that one seam route pass to Lovelady, the tight end, and boom, next thing you know, they're on the doorstep to score a touchdown to make it a 2-score game with time winding down under 7 minutes. And that ended the game because you sort of felt like maybe Washington could make one dynamic play, not two. Could they make one dynamic play? Yeah. But the way Michigan's defense had been playing, I didn't expect them to make two. So, but I thought it was a good game. I don't think the score was indicative of how competitive it was. Washington certainly made the changes to their defense to stop that Michigan juggernaut from, boat racing them on the ground the first half. Yeah. They got those linebackers up and got their second level intact, and they were stout. They got a number of 3-and-outs to give themselves a chance, but Washington's offense simply could not manifest enough offense to take advantage of it.
Tim, I got two questions for you, and they're both about the head coaches from the game, from the national championship.
Right.
It's DeBoer is a star being born before our eyes. Is he going to become one of the big names in college football? And is Jim Harbaugh giving everyone the old Stone Cold Steve Austin double bird salute out the door heading to the NFL?
Yeah. And yeah, I think. I do think that DeBoer is a star.
Yes.
But he's a humble star. And
yes.
I don't see him leaving. I think he's very, very comfortable at Washington.
They're happy to have him.
Yeah, having coached where he has, come up through the ranks at the smaller schools. He's sort of a further west version of Lance Leipold when you think about it. I think Jim Harbaugh is going to leave. I don't know that he's going to raise a finger other than maybe the right one saying number one.
Right, the number one finger.
And right off in glory. And I think that he has a right to do that. I do. And I was talking with David Cohn on the Crane and Company show just this morning, and he's a Michigan guy, played there. And he said, hey, at this stage, we'll pack his bags and send him on his way. He's good to go if he wants to go.
Right.
So they're very satisfied, the Michiganders, with what he accomplished because he did what he set out to do, and it wasn't easily accomplished. I mean, the guy, say what you want about him, about the allegations and everything else, but you know what? The guy took a pay cut. You know, the guy fired guys that the guy fired guys that he didn't really want to fire, but he looked himself in the mirror and said, you know what, we got a problem. I need to repair this, and I think I can do it. And I've got the contacts to pull it off. He brought in Jess Minter to run the defense, a guy with NFL pedigree with his brother John with the Ravens. He gave Sharon Moore the keys to the car offensively and said, you know, go get you some, big fella. I think Moore would be a great candidate to replace him if that's what he chooses to do. Sharon Moore certainly deserves the opportunity, I think, if they want to keep the infrastructure in place that Jim set. And look, he doesn't have to worry with the NCAA anymore or worry about it being their target for the next 4 or 5 years, which he would be, as long as the NCAA has any direct involvement in Division I college football. That's going to be the case. So get out from underneath that cloud and go and either take the Chargers job or the Bears job and see if you can duplicate what you did in San Francisco, get back to the Super Bowl and, you know, make some history that way. You know, be one of the very few to win both a national title and a Super Bowl championship. Only a handful of guys have done that. So that'll be fun to watch. You know, it'll be a lot of fun to watch, and I think Michigan will be in good shape moving forward. I've been asked also about whether this title is going to be viewed somehow as an asterisk one because of the allegations. And let me just say unequivocally, no. Okay? No.
I'm with you. I am with you.
Because now will we look back on that as a rallying point for his team, that it helped them develop a chip and an emotional edge going into the playoff and into that Ohio State game? Yeah, absolutely.
So, Tim, hold that thought because we were up against our final break. And when we come back, we are going to dive further into college basketball. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show. We will be right back. How would you guys like to try a caramel cookie butter hot chocolate? Hey, you guys ordered the Blitzen so much at Strange Brew Coffee House over the holidays until Strange Brew made the Blitzen a permanent addition to Strange Brew Originals. Hey, it's cold outside, it's wintertime, you probably need a pick-me-up or maybe even something to warm you up. Go by Strange Brew Coffee House on the Strip at the University of Alabama, 1101 University Boulevard, and get you something that will warm your heart and your soul right here on the Strip at the University of Alabama. Citizens of West Alabama, have you heard the news? The Bank of Moundville, which was established way back in 1907, offers personal loans of all sizes, unsecured and secured, with competitive interest rates. You can contact them today at 205-371-2227. Once again, that is the Bank of Moundville, 205-371-2227, or go by and see them in downtown Moundville. They are an equal housing lender and a member of the FDIC. Residents of Tuscaloosa, are you guys upsizing, downsizing, looking for college housing, or even relocating for your job right here to Tuscaloosa? If that's the case, then you need to contact Celeste Hagler, owner and operator of First Class Real Estate South Home Group, right here in Tuscaloosa. She can help you with the buying, selling, and investment needs throughout the state of Alabama. You can contact Celeste at 205-861-5698. Reach out to Celeste again at 205-861-5698 and schedule a consultation to discuss your real estate goals and to live where you love in the state of Alabama.
If you
Since 1999, residents of Tuscaloosa has depended on this butcher shop and grocery store. I'm talking about South's Finest Meats. With their specialty meats and fresh to frozen bulk vegetables, you can prepare delicious home-cooked meals all week long. At South's Finest Meats, customer service is their number one priority, and when you shop with them, you can expect to be treated like an MVP. Go by and check out South's Finest Meats at 3201 10th Avenue right there in Tuscaloosa. South's Finest Meats, the official sponsor of the Stingray Show. And we want to welcome you back inside the Stingray Show. Hope all is well with you guys, and our guest this evening is none other than Tim Brando, a.k.a. Timmy B. And Timmy, I've actually got a question for you. From the outside looking in, this is now 3 consecutive seasons for the Alabama Crimson Tide without a national championship. Their last one was back in 2020. And
is your heart just aching? Are people going to be able to survive? My God, is ER ready for all these fans to come in? Somebody get the NICU ready. Get the ICU ready. Come on now. My God. What was your question?
In your opinion, what does Alabama and Nick Saban need to do in order to get back to where they were in winning championships, in your opinion?
Oh, I don't know. Get the snap correct? How about that?
That's a good start. That's a great start.
They got to start, You begin the season. Quarterback center exchange is pretty important. Okay, you got either put the quarterback underneath his rear end or effectively make the snap, one that's easier for the quarterback to field. Right. Look, I kid because I care. All right, Stephen. So yes. Take it with a grain of salt and hopefully with good humor. The reality is, Bama fan needs to come to grips with reality. All right? The end is near, even if Nick Saban stays. Right. Okay? The end of your dominance is near because it's just going to be harder to win a national championship than it's ever been.
Right. Yeah.
Because now you have a lot more teams that are playing at a much higher level than you did during that just tremendous run of national titles every other year. I mean, for a handful of years, for 5 years, it was back and forth, between Clemson and Alabama. Mm-hmm. Okay, you had Ohio State, an occasional Oregon, a bounce in from Washington maybe a time or two, but it was really those 2 teams and maybe 1 or 2 others. Ohio State maybe a challenge after Clemson, but
right.
Look, the bottom line is it's not going to be as easy because now you're going to have more layers of games to play to get to the promised land, to play for a championship. And I know he desperately wants to get to 8 and get to 7 to surpass Bear Bryant at Alabama. And some can tell me otherwise. That really doesn't. I'm telling you, it matters to him. Okay, it matters to him. All right, he may not have an ego that I don't know that he necessarily needs a farewell tour.
Right.
I don't think Nick Saban really cares to go into SEC stadiums and have, PA announcements made by the opposing team saying, thank you, Nick Saban, for all you did for the Southeastern Conference. I don't think he needs that, or he cares about that kind of stuff. He's not going to go out the Mike Krzyzewski of college football, okay? He doesn't need that.
Right.
But he definitely needs and wants and salivates of making history. That's what it's all about. And being to say you're the GOAT, but not have more than Bear, means in his mind he's not the GOAT.
Right.
He can only be the GOAT if he gets there. Excuse me. It's a little bit like Tiger Woods. He stayed around. If he hadn't hurt himself and had all the issues that he had with his personal life, he probably would have surpassed Jack Nicklaus. He probably would have. But life took over and things happened and he didn't get there. And he likely never will. You never say never because golf is golf. But, maybe he can tack on some of Charlie's wins when he gets on the PGA Tour, pat him to his record, and maybe he can surpass Mr. Nicklaus. So you could say the Woods family has more majors than Jack Nicklaus. Who knows? But bottom line is Nick Saban wants to be and needs to be. It's not just wants. He needs to win that 8th title, his 7th at Alabama to go along with the 1 at LSU. So he's not going to leave until after that's done. I get such a kick out of the speculation from so many and the Alabama fans. So, oh my God, what do you think he's going to do? He's going nowhere. Okay, nowhere. And the only reason it's brought up is because these Embrace debate shows have to have something to talk about. And now that is Pete Rose ever going to get in the Hall of Fame question has gotten so old we can't go there. Let's just go with Saban. Will he or won't he? Okay, I mean that's kind of he's kind of replaced the Pete Rose will he ever get in the Hall of Fame story. It's almost that easy a topic to bring up in the dead of summer when no one is calling into radio shows and you're trying to generate some interest. That's why this topic keeps coming up. What do they need to do? What do they really need to their fan base needs to get their act together and understand that's what they need to do. Okay. Get some therapy and come to grips with the fact that it isn't going to be as easy as it used to be.
Right.
Because the competition's better. College football's landscape is flatter because too many teams have too many players. And even the great Nick Saban can be number one in recruiting every year. And he can do extremely well in the portal every year. And everybody else is doing the same thing. And players can stick around longer at other places. Nick Saban wound up with the quarterback that he had this year because of what? His own inability to come to terms with the fact that he had no one in that quarterback room, including Jalen Milroe, who was diversified enough to give him the kind of quarterback that he had grown accustomed to having for years. He had Jalen Hurts, then he had Bryce Young, and now you've got, Jalen Milroe improved more than any other player could possibly improve in college football this year at the mission-critical position. But he still was a one-dimensional guy to defend. Michigan had a much easier time defining a way to defend Milroe than they did Michael Penix. Is that not obvious to an Alabama fan? It should be.
Right.
I mean, they had to confuse Penix. Okay, they had to have reads in that secondary. They had to confuse him. And they also had to get to him enough to, scramble his head and make him go faster so that sometimes he would miss open receivers. He missed open receivers. And when I say missed, I don't mean passed it and it was incomplete. I mean, he threw it on a check down and a guy was running wide open and he didn't see him. That's a byproduct of a great defense that got into his head. Okay. Penix is really good at that. He lit up Texas. He threw, as I said, a perfect game against Texas. Jalen Milroe didn't. He was unnerved by Texas. He was exposed by Texas. He was not an elite quarterback. He could be maybe closer to elite by next year. I don't know. But Saban was responsible for the quarterback room being the quarterback room.
Right.
No one else. He felt like, you know what, I can do it this way. Well, maybe not. Maybe you need to go ahead and if you want to get that next title, you might want to go get that elite quarterback through the transfer portal to get you there. And he's got to come to terms with that. And I don't know, maybe he will, maybe he won't. But I don't think the issue really is Alabama as a team. It's Alabama's fan base. I mean, get up, grow up, and get over it. All right? It's not going to be what it used to be, even if Nick Saban stays. That's my answer to you. If that sounds rude, crude, and socially unacceptable, I'm sorry, but that's the root of the problem.
So, guys, hold that thought because we are up against our final break. And when we come back, we are going to continue with this interview with Tim Brando. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show. Be back in a flash with the final little bit of Tim Brando.
Go inside the Alabama Crimson Tide with the Gary Harris Show.
Hey, everybody, it's Gary Harris. Coming up Friday on the TGIF edition of the Gary Harris Show, man, are we going to be jam-packed. We're going to keep you up to date on what's the latest in a search for a new head football coach to replace Nick Saban at the University of Alabama, plus Adam Amin from Fox Sports and the Auburn Report with Brett Pritchard. We'll get the Auburn perspective on Nick Saban retiring. All that and more Friday morning at 9 a.m. on the Gary Harris Show.
Catch the Gary Harris Show Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m. on Tide 100.9 and Tide100.9.com.
Since 1999, residents of Tuscaloosa has depended on this butcher shop and grocery store. I'm talking about South's Finest Meats. With their specialty meats and fresh to frozen bulk vegetables, you can prepare delicious home-cooked meals all week long. At South's Finest Meats, customer service is their number one priority, and when you shop with them, you can expect to be treated like an MVP. Go by and check out South's Finest Meats at 3201 10th Avenue right there in Tuscaloosa. South's Finest Meats, the official sponsor of the Stingray Show. Your life can change on a dime, and if you are relocating for your job up to the Rocket City of Huntsville, the fastest growing city in the state of Alabama, you need to contact Celeste Hagler of First Class Real Estate South Home Group. She has brokers all over North Alabama to help you get settled with buying a new home in North Alabama. You can contact her at 205-861-5698. Once again, that is Celeste Hagler, 205-861-5698. Contact Celeste Hagler today to live where you love in the state of Alabama, even in the Rocket City of Huntsville. How would you guys like to try a caramel cookie butter hot chocolate? Hey, you guys ordered the Blitzen so much at Strange Brew Coffee House over the holidays until Strange Brew made the Blitzen a permanent addition to Strange Brew Originals. Hey, it's cold outside, it's wintertime, you probably need a pick-me-up or maybe even something to warm you up. Go by Strange Brew Coffee House on the Strip at the University of Alabama, 1101 University Boulevard, and get you something that will warm your heart and your soul right here on the Strip at the University of Alabama.
You still think?
Okay, getting that team to the Final Four of college football, I mean, you had to have a wing and a prayer come true. You should have lost to Arkansas at home. I mean, you really should have. If a kid doesn't get caught up with a turf monster on a third down play near midfield, they go in and score. A winless at the time SEC team almost beat you. And then 4th and 31 after a bad snap. I guess maybe the center thought we got a better play on 4th and 31, so let's center it back so we get, we're up against the wall for that play. I mean, they were fortunate to even get to this playoff. They earned it against Georgia, and I know Nick had to feel really good about restoring his dominance over Kirby in Georgia. Might I point out that Georgia still won all the games they won and did win 2 in a row. This just in. So it's the fan base that's got to get it together, not the team. Team and the program is fine. Fan base needs to understand that college football is a hell of a lot more than just Alabama football. It's a hell of a lot more than just Alabama football. And until they do, They're going to be overreacting to this. Oh, my God, it's been 3 years, you know. And when you got these pundits on television and on radio saying, oh, this is really, it's been 3 years. Really? You realize how stupid that sounds to everybody else in America?
You. I am with you. Thank you for saying
that
it.
That is so stupid. Michigan, the winningest program in the history of college football, got more wins than anybody. Hadn't had an undisputed national title in 48 years until this season.
Right.
The one they got in 97, they shared, and they finally got one. Bo Schembechler, the team, never won an undisputed national championship.
Right.
An Alabama fan is like jumping off a cliff because they didn't win one in 3 years. Enough already.
Yes.
I'm with you. I second the motion.
Yeah. It's just that I'm continually amazed. But you know what, Stephen? It's a question that has to be asked, and I don't disrespect you for asking it.
Yes, sir.
I just find it laughable. It's like if you were to take somebody, an alien, just into our country, and you brought them to look at college football, and specifically college football in the South, right? And they didn't know anything about the sport, but they just kind of watched what transpired, and they saw all this incestuous crap that happens in the SEC. You know, the Hugh Freeze, Lane Kiffin sweepstakes last year with Auburn, right? The Jimbo Fisher saga at Texas A&M. But even as crazy as those were, all right, just watching how Alabama fans stews over everything that goes on with Nick Saban and that program in Tuscaloosa. E.T. would be phoning home and getting home as soon as possible saying, I can't live with these whack jobs. This is out of control. Really?
Wow. I didn't think we'd have an E.T. reference today, but we get one.
Well, he asked the magic question.
Yes, sir.
That was right. So Tim, my God, what are we going to, what do they have to do to get it? I've got no answers on the field for you. I just think read some self-help books, maybe get some therapy. That'll help you. That'll help the Alabama people, you know? Man, I love you, Steve.
Yeah, I do. I understand. Yeah.
It's just, my God, think about all the other programs in college football that are just trying to get to the big programs too. We're talking, I just mentioned the Michigan analogy. How about what's going on at Nebraska? How about what's going on at
Notre Dame
Texas since 2005? Notre Dame. You think they got bigger problems? From a football standpoint, they do. Okay. Yep. But, the level of expectation and the level of just, I know that passion is a wonderful thing. We live for fans that care as much as Alabama fans care about their team. And we'll always have this, like this is going on a lot today in the aftermath of the national title game. Florida State fans are now on social media. You know what? By God, we could have beaten them. We just gotten our chance. We could have beaten them. And Texas fans are saying, I wasn't worried about, I was just on with Will Kane on his podcast from Fox News, and Will's a big Texas guy. And he's like, Tim, I really wasn't worried about Michigan. I was worried about Washington. I thought we could have, I really thought, and you know what? I wasn't worried about Alabama because we beat Alabama. We beat Alabama at their place. And I'm like, Will, you just diagrammed yourself as the perfect college football fan. Okay. A college football fan cares only about his needs and his wants, nobody else's.
Right.
Because when it comes to college football, it's not about, and now he went to school at Texas and was a noted alum there. But a lot of these fans of Alabama never even set foot in that institution anywhere. But because they're where they are, they believe that's their school that represents their way of life. Mm-hmm. And so every Saturday when teams play, it's not just a football game. It's our way of life versus their way of life. Mm-hmm. And by God, we got to show them that our way of life is better.
Yeah.
And it's one of the last vestiges of territorial tribalism that we have in our country. And it makes it great. So even though I'm sort of scoffing and saying what I'm saying here, it's also something I love too.
Right.
I love the fact that they are how they are. I would be probably more concerned if they weren't. If suddenly they did get the therapy and they did take the chill pills and they worked it all out. Maybe it wouldn't be the same, and I wouldn't have as much fun, you know.
Right.
But it is amazing because I do talk to enough other people around the country to know that there's a level of fandom in college football that's way over the top.
Yes.
There is everywhere. Okay. There's a lunatic fringe everywhere, but there is none. And there never will be any that can match that level of fandom over the top, lunatic fringe worthy of Alabama. It is.
I agree with that.
It is destined to be number one past recruiting and past the transfer portal every stinking year.
Yes.
Every year. So if I'm the Alabama fans out there, I would just try to find a way to come to grips with how your head coach feels about the state of affairs in the college game. And that is, hey, a little extra playoff game or two, just like the NFL. I'm down with that. You know, don't worry, be happy. It's going to be okay. Alabama's place in college football is still very secure, and you're a hell of a lot closer to a 7th national title under Saban than most teams are to their first national championship, even with this format change. But when I tell you it's going to be harder to win that one extra national championship, it's true. It's just going to be harder to navigate because there's so many more really good teams out there than there were 10 years ago when you were dominating the sport. No one, not even the biggest brands of college football, are going to be able to dominate the way they once did. Imagine if you're Ohio State right now. You see what's happened with Michigan, and now you're in the same position that Harbaugh was in 3+ years ago.
Right.
Now Ryan Day has got to figure this thing out, or his job's on the line. And that's in a place like Ohio State. And in the Pac-12 being gone, and the Big Ten now bringing in Oregon and SC and UCLA and SC, my gosh, the Big Ten's going to be even harder to win. Okay? But, again, I'll say this. Getting to the National Championship College Football Playoff with 12 teams, we will have multiple 2-loss teams that get in the playoff.
Yeah.
So you can afford to lose a game or two here, but if your team gets better as the season rolls on, and this season was certainly an example that Nick Saban and Alabama, they're really good at that, you know, with that NFL construct that he has, then he's comfortable with it, then you got to find a way to be comfortable with it too.
So Tim, look, man, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join us. And if you would, please go on ahead and let everybody know where they can watch you call college basketball this week, my friend.
You got it. Let me tell you, I had 2 great games. Bill Raftery and I are together on Thursday night. The boys from East Lansing at Michigan State, Tom Izzo and company, are headed into Champaign to take on Illinois, who played Purdue. I mean, a great game over the weekend, and they're huddled right around number 10 in the country. Great basketball team. That game's going to be on Thursday night on FS1. And then Donnie Marshall and I will get together at the home of the national champions in Hartford, Connecticut, when UConn takes on Georgetown just before the NFL playoffs get rolling on Fox on Sunday. So those are my next 2 games. And as I say, we just keep on trucking all the way till March.
Yes, sir.
And taking you close to tournament time. So thanks for having me on, guys. I'm always happy to be on, and Dr. Brando will help you get some help if you need it, Alabama fans. I'll do what I can.
Thank you so much, man.
You got it.
And enjoy college basketball, and we'll catch up later on this year.
You got it. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
I hope you had a great holiday, and we'll talk soon, fellas. Be well.
So, Heath, that is going to wrap up another edition of the Stingray Show. We hope that you guys have thoroughly enjoyed it there with Timmy B, Tim Brando talking all things, a little bit of college basketball and college football as well. Go ahead and do it together, my friend. We are out. See you guys tomorrow night right back here on the Stingray Show. We will see you then.
Mark off ET on your Stingray bingo card.
Residents of